If you're looking for a video on how to install corner bead, well, you came to the right place. I installed and finished in mud this corner bead that you see here on this corner. So I'm going to show you step by step how I did that. And if you're new to this channel, my name's Josh. It's all about DIY to save a ton of money. So be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you get notification every time I release a new video, and hammer that like button for me. That's all I ask in return for making this video. So doing corner bead installation really isn't that difficult, but let me show you how to do it. First thing that I like to do after the drywall's hung is go through and install what's called corner bead. Corner bead is going to give a protective outer edge to the walls on the outside corners, so that way they're reinforced and they'll give you a place to finish up to. So there's different types of corner bead. There's metal corner bead, vinyl corner bead, there's paper face corner bead. So there's a lot of options for corner bead, but my favorite and the most common is going to be metal. You'll notice in the background that some of the drywall's already been taped and the screw holes hit. That's because my helper, which is my father, used to be a full-time drywall finisher. So he's the one that taught me a lot of the techniques I'm going to show you. So keep that in mind. And we're going to start by installing the corner bead on this corner. I'm going to measure from the ceiling to the floor at the corner to get the exact measurement I need my corner bead. So I'm just going to take my tape, butt up tight against the ceiling and get that measurement. My measurement is 114 inches from the ceiling down to the floor. So I'm going to subtract a ½ inch. I'm going to cut it 113.5 inches for this corner. I'm going to mark 113.5 inches for the length we need. And then I got my what are called 10 snips here, and that's what I'm going to use to cut the metal. In order to cut the metal, very simple. We simply just cut at that length, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Just cut down one side. Then I'm going to flip it around, cut down the other side, and then we can just bend that little bit off, and that's all there is to cutting it to length. To secure the corner bead, I'll be using 1¼ drywall screws along with a impact driver or drill with a number 2 Phillips bit in order to drive the screws. I'm on my step ladder and I'm at the top of the corner where the corner meets the ceiling. And I'm first going to take the corner and just place it right up against the ceiling. And then we don't want to force the corner onto the wall. We want to actually let this corner bead just kind of float comfortably. And you don't want to press it because it'll flatten it out and you won't be able to finish up against the corner. So you want to put it on nice and gentle and just kind of eyeball right where the corner is setting to where we can finish it properly. So right there looks pretty good. So I'm going to place a screw here into one of the screw holes that are placed here. And you can also use staples or other fasteners. There's also a tool that will place the corner on and kind of crimp it into the edge. But I actually just like to use the drywall screws because we got them on hand. And if you're doing this as a DIY project, you really don't need to invest more tools than what you need. So right here, we're going to place a screw. And we're going to sink the screw to where it's below the surface of the corner bead. So that way we can finish it. And as you can see, the corner is just kind of floating here right now. So we're simply going to come down about midway and place another screw before we put any more screws here. I'm now here midway and I'm going to do the same that I did up above. Just place it gently into the corner to where it looks nice and even and where we want to be able to finish up to it comfortably, and that looks good there. So now I'm going to place another screw here midway. I'm now here at the bottom, and this will be the third screw. And again, we're going to eyeball it to where it's about center of the corner, and it looks good right about there. And now I'm going to place a screw here at the bottom. I'm now going to place screws every 8 to 12 inches up this side of the corner. Now that I have this side of the corner bead secured, I'm going to take a 6-inch knife and I'm going to place it right against the edge of the corner, then the other edge on the wall. And then I'm going to slide it to make sure we have a space in which drywall mud will be able to finish this corner properly. So we're going to go right down the whole thing, and then we're going to check the other side as well before we place screws in it, just to make sure we don't have to manipulate it some in order to get it to set properly, to finish properly. So you can see up close, if we place our knife right against the wall, see that gap? That's what we want as we run our knife down the corner bead. in order to make sure it's on properly to be able to finish. And if we take a look on this side that has no screws yet, it should be the same thing. As you can see, there's a gap there to nothing. That's going to give us a place for mud to set in order to finish it and give it a good look. I'm now going to screw off this side of the corner bead to complete the installation of the corner bead. I'm now going to install the remainder of the corner bead in this garage before I install the taping. As far as getting the mud on, we want to make sure that we put it on tight against the corner bead and then feather it out to nothing using a 6-inch knife. So we're going to keep it to where, if you remember when we installed the corner bead, there's going to be a bed of mud here right along the corner bead. So same idea, however you can get the mud on is kind of up to you, but I still like to use the whole, put more mud on this side of the knife that's going to run along the bead, and then taper it out to nothing so it feathers as you run it. And then you can also go like this and just scrape along the corner bead, but that tends to take more time. It kind of depends on how you want to do it. So for me, I'm just going to do it how I've been running the mud before. But once you get the mud on, you simply just try to smear it off, so to speak, to where you have the bed of mud right along the corner bead out to nothing. So very simple idea here, and just takes a little bit of practice to get really good at it. So the idea is, after you get it on the corner bead, we just simply take the end of our knife on this side, rest it against the corner bead to use as a guide, and go right down the edge, and then it's going to be tapered down to nothing naturally because of how the corner bead's installed. So you'll notice it's easier to do these outside corners than it is those inside corners. And then I'm just going to run it right down to the floor and then do the other side. If you do decide to finish both sides of your outside corners at the same time, as you know, they're both wet. So if you do get a little bit of this over mudding on the corner, just let it dry and then it'll knock off in 2 seconds. If you try to swipe it off or something, you risk getting it into the fresh mud. So we're gonna let that dry and then address it later. When you are finishing drywall, it's actually best to wear light colored clothes like a white t-shirt and light colored jeans, or even white jeans, because when you're finishing the drywall, you will get mud on you here and there, and it will show up exponentially with dark colors as I am wearing. But if you do not need to do anything where you have to worry about looking dirty, it's not that big a deal, just a little tip. I'm now going to do the outside corner's second coat. And if you remember from the first time I put mud on this, I said if there's any over mudding here, just let it dry, because it's easier just take your knife, you can just scrape it off now that it's dried, or you can take a sanding sponge and just hit it real quick, just enough to knock off that loose debris. So in order to do these outside corners, I'm going to step up to the 8-inch knife. I'm first going to hit this outside edge first, knock off the loose mud, and now, because we're using a bigger knife, it's going to take this first coat, cover it up and run it out just a little further. So it's the same idea. We're going to use the outside edge as a guide and then just feather it out to nothing. Now that this outside corner is totally dry, we're going to place a skim coat right over this for the final coat. And something about the inside corners, sometimes you can get away with not skimming them. And in fact, this corner looks good the way we have it. So I'm actually not going to skim this inside corner. So if it looks like it needs it, you can do it. But I think after a quick sanding, we're going to be good to go. But this one needs one more coat for a skim coat. And to do this, we do the same idea that we've been doing. We're going to take our 12-inch knife, use the edge as a guide. And again, we're trying to just get it to where it feathers out to nothing, similar to how we've been doing these last coats. And we need to make sure we knock off any of these chunks of drywall first and scrape off any of the debris that's on the wall. But other than that, we're going to go ahead and skim this outside corner. The process of applying tape, doing your second coat, and then skimming with your third coat is the most standard practice when it comes to drywall finishing. But there is also one more different level you can move up to, and that's level 5 finishing. And it's a very advanced technique to where you do everything that I showed you here, except you would then run a skim coat over the whole wall and then smooth it out to where everything is perfectly flat. And again, that is an advanced technique that is not very common and very expensive to have done. After the mud has totally dried, we simply go over it with a pole sander and a sanding block for the final touch. If you would like to see how I'm going to mud and tape all of this drywall, check out this video. It'll help you out.